Greetings one and all, and welcome to the Dark Rider Pony Analysis. I am the Nightmare Rider, Mage of Mind, reminding you, as always, that even a cheeseburger can be deconstructed as original source. Lesson 0 is one of the more popular episodes of Season 2, with Twilight's mental breakdown and being an example of friendship is magic breaking one of the many girls' cartoons stereotypes. However, when a character has a breakdown like this, it often brings up the question of whether or not this is within the boundaries of their established character. The first notable example of this behaviour was Pinkie Pie during Party of One, where she started drifting off to La La Land due to thinking her friends had abandoned her. It is key emotional flaws like this which give the characters more depth than their base personalities, balancing out their strengths with varying conflict on a similar theme. As such, Twilight's key weakness is that she sets a very high standard for herself when it comes to organisation and intellectual pursuits. She is exceptionally smart and enjoys learning as much as she can, while also having quite a high level of emotional awareness among her friends. The fact she has achieved so much makes it difficult for her on occasions where she cannot reach perfection, which takes an emotional toll on her in this case. Lesson 0 shows just how far this can go. We see how she takes organisation to an obsessive level, making lists of lists of lists for all her daily business in Ponyville, something which Spike finds somewhat annoying, but is still happy to keep up with. A key trope this episode is themed around is lamp shading. In this case, the lamp being shaded is the formula of kids' cartoons that teach an audience the moral lesson in each episode. Up until this point, the formula has been more or less consistent, with Twilight writing a letter to Princess Celestia with the lesson of friendship every episode. However, with Twilight always being the one to write the letter can get a bit restrictive, because she has to be around whenever her friends learn a lesson themselves. It is a stroke of genius on the part of Megan McCarthy to write an episode that not only breaks this formula, but also expands on Twilight's character at the same time. Because Twilight is so obsessive with keeping schedules and routines, something we've learned from day one, she gets really worked up when she realises that she doesn't have friendship lessons to report to Princess Celestia. Her following rant is clearly shown as irrational because her certainty of the downward spiral resulting from her tardiness is a slippery slope fallacy. The slippery slope argument is suggesting that there will be a domino effect of negative consequences for accepting one action, with the first action leading to something worse, and so on and so forth until it leads to the worst possible outcome. This is often coupled with the false cause fallacy, suggesting that one event will directly cause another contrary to any evidence to suggest it will. So in this scenario, the false cause is that if Twilight is one single letter is delivered late or not at all, then Celestia will punish her with a difficult test. She then goes further down the rabbit hole by suggesting that she will certainly fail this test, resulting in being sent back to Magic Kindergarten. There is nothing to suggest that Princess Celestia has ever been remotely this strict, yet Twilight is still completely committed to learning a lesson of friendship to try and avoid this perceived scenario. Twilight's eventual mental breakdown makes her both funny and sympathetic because she rests such a large portion of her own self-esteem on her intellect that being mocked in Magic Kindergarten would rob her of her self-worth. If she cannot prove herself to be a good, hard-working student to others, then she cannot believe that she is a good pony herself. The rest of the main six makes an attempt to calm Twilight down when she explains the problem to them, but end up just dismissing the notion of her paranoia as anything to worry about. However, I don't think they were necessarily being dismissive by intention as the episode suggests. Rather, it was simply how they worded their reactions to Twilight's explanation of the problem that ended up with sounding so dismissive. At the start of the scene, Twilight is commenting on how big the issue is, but when she gets to the specifics, her friends breathe a sigh of relief that she wasn't in any big trouble at all. The main five were ready and willing to help Twilight, so their attempt to help was by reassuring her that this problem isn't worth panicking over, especially because Twilight never explained her envisioned consequences to them. So the main five couldn't really understand the weight of Twilight's emotions, further adding to the misunderstanding. Well, in fairness, the moral that this leads to is a very important one to learn, especially due to how much ignorance there is concerning mental health. I think the scene of the main five acting dismissive could have been written better. Spike's role in this episode is subtle, but is incredibly effective. His relationship with Twilight is one where he can help her keep grounded while she is letting the fear getting the better of her, and throughout the episode we see him gently trying to keep things in perspective, frequently using several fourth wall gags to represent the transition back to reality. Spike puts up with the minor annoyance of the excessive checklists because he knows it helps Twilight keep calm. He understands that Twilight's fears are based off the value of her self-esteem, even if it tends to set an unrealistic standard for Twilight to achieve. The The fact that he contacts Princess Celestia about Twilight's fears getting the better of her, while still never making Twilight feel ashamed for having these fears in the first place, speaks volumes about how much he cares for her, even if he can get a little selfish on occasion. This is how I feel Spike works best, an observant assistant that works behind the scenes for the benefit of both him and the main six, a trend that I am glad Season 4 is reinstating. Along with the fourth wall humour, Rarity's drama queen act makes the perfect running gag to prevent this episode from getting too dark. The gag avoids getting repetitive because of how it builds on the initial base humour each time, shifting the key point of the humour to the increased self-awareness that Rarity and her friends have for her dramatics. Twilight's love spell shows perfectly how her obsessive-compulsive nature can cause chaos when unchecked. She doesn't have any malicious intent with the spell, instead she is doing this out of perceived necessity, providing a wake-up call for how much her paranoia is ruling her life. Even as an Alicorn princess, she hasn't completely rid herself with the paranoia, but with this and the episode It's All About Time, she has demonstrated she is working hard to avoid the paranoia getting the better of her again. Overall, Lesson Zero is an important episode of Season 2 because it shows just why Friendship is Magic is a standout cartoon as a whole. Twilight's paranoia is something that I can relate to, considering my own high standards for creativity. The episode showing just how easy it is to expect too much from yourself and the negative results of such. The humour never gets too repetitive. The moral of the episode, despite not being entirely fitting the main fire's actions, is still one that I hope both children and adults can learn from and take to heart when it comes to people in our lives who struggle with mental health difficulties. Lesson Zero gets an overall rank of straight A. Until the next time, this is the Nightmare Rider, Major Mind, riding out.